Hey, Josh.
Sam, how you doing?
Is my audio gonna be clean on this one?
I just put in my headphones. Say that again.
Testing, testing. How is my audio? Just checking.
It was great the first time, and I put stereo. It's great in stereo. Sound good.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So what's the temperature out there?
Let me check. It feels like about 65. Oh, there you go. 64. Let's see.
Hmm.
63 and yeah, 63. That's what it is.
Computer temperature.
Right now, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, expect a high of 65 degrees.
Yeah, it's 51 here.
Well,
Sorry,
that's not bad
I
for
don't
this
have
time
an
of year.
answer for that.
I thought you were talking to it. Are you using Alexa? Which one are you using?
Yeah, it's an Alexa device.
Gotcha.
Oh, Alexa. Doesn't recognize my voice.
No, you have to. The trigger is computer. That's what he uses.
Yeah.
Oh. Computer,
hello.
say something insightful. Computer, say something insightful.
Sorry, I'm not sure about that.
Computer, welcome to planet Earth.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Okay, here's one it likes. Computer, tell me a dirty joke.
Did you hear about the cows that started a metal band? They're called shredded beef.
That sounds like your Alexa.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
Computer, who is teaching you dad jokes?
I'm not sure.
Computer, who's your daddy?
Oh, come on,
I
Barry.
was made by a team of inventors at Amazon.
There you
Tracy, good
go.
to see you again. It's been a while. You're on mute, by the way.
Look who's here. Stacy hasn't been here for a couple of months.
Not a couple of months, 1 month.
Well,
Feels like
okay.
a couple of months.
Yeah, no, I was in North Carolina for a month with a friend of mine.
North Carolina. Huh. I was in Tampa for a week about a month ago.
Do you hear the background noise? That's why I was on mute. Can you hear? There's drilling. No.
No.
Nope.
Good.
Didn't you mention there was some construction maybe about a month or two ago also?
There was, I think it was more than a month ago. I don't remember what it was. I don't know what they're doing now. I didn't bother to look out.
Anyway, this is Saturday. This is, free and open space. At least that's how we've been choosing it. I have a topic for tomorrow, by the way, Barry. It's the one that we've been skirting around for weeks, but I'm okay waiting till tomorrow on that one.
Is that the
You have
one
a
on
topic for today?
is that the one on rules and protocols, etc.?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's an extension of that one. Yeah.
All righty.
Yeah, I guess today the topic I brought, we can speculate on, how Stacy was spending her time the last month or two.
I can tell.
Kidding.
I'm happy to
just
tell
kidding.
you why I didn't show up.
It's more fun to speculate. I'm just kidding.
How many
like
false theories can we concoct?
Yes.
I
Probably
was just gonna say, Stacy, I like when Sam's in a good mood. He's you're in a chipper mood today, Sam. I'm enjoying it.
Look at his face. Okay, Stacy, I want you to narrate the meaning of the
That's exactly. I love it. I love it. I love it, Sam.
Actually, Sam hadn't been here for the last few sessions I was at. Was just Sam coming on and saying, "Sorry, I can't be here today."
Right.
Oh, by the way, that's coming up again because this coming weekend, I'm going to be in the UK in London.
Oh, nice.
And then the following two, I'm going to be in India. So I'm not going to be back until probably October 15th. But I'll try and start, or at least make sure that somebody can start, and then somebody can record for the next 3 weekends.
Just say, computer, record my next 3 weekends. Can take control of Zoom.
It doesn't have that skill.
It sure does. You just haven't programmed it.
I haven't connected it.
You have
Nah,
to delegate authority.
Yeah, you got to get some APIs from Zoom over to your Alexa, but yeah, they just
Alexa
added a
is
whole AI feature.
remarkably unsmart, shall I say, compared to GPT and Bard and all these other models. So
Yeah, well, it's just a trigger to trigger the other model that triggers the other model that triggers
yeah,
the
but
smart one.
they haven't gotten it any smarter. You would think that Amazon would have done that by now.
Hey, I haven't gotten any smarter. I've been here 5 years, but I'm trying. I'm neuro-linguistically processing all these conversations. So I'm trying to be funny. I'm in a funny mood today. You got me giggling, Sam.
Dad jokes.
Yo, this is
Dad jokes.
my first day. This is my first day that Cusella isn't. She finished 10 weeks of. She's got, I think, 80 or less than 100 hours left for her. It's been 10 years studying Chinese medicine, so she just has 10 more sessions in the clinic, and she should be able to get her license, because that's what they make you do. So I'm very proud of her, and it's been hard trying to talk to you guys taking care of the kid on a Saturday morning, because she's like, where's mommy, what's going on? And then just when she's all disoriented, I'm going on Zoom with you guys. So thank you for bearing with me these last 10 weeks.
It's been cute watching her grow up.
Yeah, she stared me down this morning when I told her I was going on the Zoom call. She just gave me this look like, fuck you, like an evil look. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I guess that's part of being a dad. You get that look from your kids sometimes.
Briefly we had Maxwell showing up online. Maybe we'll have Aya showing up more and more to participate.
I hope so. I'd say give her another 1 year, one more year. She'll be ready.
I used to attend these Wednesday night sessions in Palo Alto. I think I might have mentioned this, called Serious Conversations, starting way back in February of 2011. And I did take Amy at least a couple of times when she was about 14 or 15. No, was it? No, that was like 12, 13, 12. So she would have been about 17 or 18. So she came a couple times. Nick came a couple times. And they unfortunately were the only young kids that came, so they didn't actually stick. But I did try to get the multi-generational serious conversations at least attempted.
The best conversations I ever had online took place in the early 1990s, before the World Wide Web, but after you had the ability to have text-only virtual communities. And the adolescents were fabulous. We used to have these great conversations. I called them Moulton's rabbinic philosophy Talmudic discussion groups. I would throw out some conundrum, some issue, and then the kids would discuss it on the quote public channel for like an hour. And the best ones I recorded and published. And there you can still find them. They're pretty obscure. They're 25 years old now. But
would these be ethical studies?
Say that again.
Would these be ethical studies?
Some of them were. Sometimes when they would ask me to throw out a topic, I would reprise an activity that I experienced when I was a teenager. Rabbi Kripke would throw out these ethical conundrums, and then we would discuss them for like an hour or so. And he would listen to our discussion and occasionally ask a carefully crafted question to kind of refocus us if we drifted away. And much later, I realized that Rabbi Kripke and one other professor, my calculus professor, were the only two educators who I consider that they taught their students how to think, not what to think, but how to think, by giving us things to chew on and then letting us chew on them, and just simply asking questions like Socrates to focus us when we kind of went astray. And more than anything, this Mayunic method that Rabbi Kripke used and my calculus professor used were extremely powerful. And I reprised that with these adolescents in the early 1990s on all sorts of topics. And like I say, you can find the transcripts of a handful of them that I saved and published.
That's the way I was educated too. Very.
Yep.
My dad would say something cryptic to me and then not say anything for a week and come back and be like, so what are you thinking about? It's like he just used me as a test case for his he went to school, I think, for
Yeah.
Socratic philosophy. So he was testing me out to see if he could get me to think.
And you may have heard me mention that I actually tried this out with some of the GPTs. I would give it a scenario and ask it to construct a response and use the Socratic method to get it to construct a theory that I had previously published, but it wasn't in the public database that they were trained on. And I got ChatGPT to construct a very nice synopsis of the model of emotions and learning, which you didn't know about before because it had never read about it before. And it took about 20 minutes. And I had done the same thing when I give talks. I would not just give the talk, I would ask the audience questions, and the audience would construct the talk, slide by slide. And that would also take about 20 minutes, but typically only one or two people in the audience were actually the ones who were generating the content. But I found that ChatGPT could do it beautifully.
This is something maybe we could bring back from one or two conversations ago and see if Stacy resonates. Stacy, a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about ChatGPT, I also made the hypothesis that what behavior we call love or kindness or compassion is also learned patterns of behavior. And if we were actually able to learn that, then wouldn't GPT be able to learn these patterns of kindness and compassion and love, or at least verbally behave that way? So I was saying, hey, pretty much we're all just pattern learning entities. And even GPTs have the advantage that they have a lot more of human expression to learn from than even any specific individual human. So anyway, that was my claim, is that eventually, probably sooner than we think, these GPTs will actually emulate very successfully kind, compassionate, and loving behavior. Over.
It's an interesting question for you to ask me at this moment, considering what I'm already focused on. Because I think that part of loving as a verb is allowing room for expression. I don't know that a GPT will have a need to express in the way that a human does. So, yeah, it's an interesting question.
I just put in a reference. There's probably most of you are aware, if you haven't read it recently, Ray Bradbury wrote a short story called I Seen the Body Electric, and it was made into an hour-long made-for-TV movie. Followed pretty close to the original short story. It's called The Electric Grandmother, starring Maureen Stapleton and half a dozen other participants. And the Electric Grandmother is an android who is brought in to replace the biological mother who suddenly died of, they don't actually explain how the mother died, but the three children are now without a female parent figure. And first Aunt Clara comes in and she's a disaster. They can't deal with her. So then they send away Aunt Clara and they acquire this android grandmother played by Maureen Stapleton. And it's all about whether the children bond to the electric grandmother and how the electric grandmother relates to the children. And at the very end is the punchline that Ray Bradbury sticks in. After the children are adults and out on their own, the electric grandmothers, and she's one of many that are manufactured by this company. They're all in the electric grandmother retirement home, reminiscing on their roles. And Maureen Stapleton's character, she says, of course, I didn't love them. I'm only a machine. I'm not capable of love, but I paid attention to them. There is a difference, isn't there?
Can we ask ChatGPT what it defines love as?
Sure. I think I have it open on one of my windows here. Let's see, where is that?
That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah, here. Where is ChatGPT? I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe in the context of a grandparent.
ChatGPT.
Love is a complex and multifaceted emotion that has been a subject of human contemplation, art, philosophy, and science for centuries. It is deeply personal and subjective experience, and its meaning can vary from person to person and culture to culture. Here are some key aspects of love, and it gives 10 aspects of love: affection, connection, empathy, sacrifice, romantic love, platonic love, unconditional love, love in literature and art, scientific perspectives, and cultural variations.
Pretty all-encompassing, pretty complex.
But I don't think it pays as much attention to what Barry pointed out, which is the attention. And I think that's a big piece of what's missing.
All right. The one I got.
I agree with you,
is too long-
Stacy.
The one I got is too long to paste, so I have to read it or else share it. But it's not very long. I'll read it. So ChatGPT, Joshua wants to know, quote, what is love? ChatGPT. The concept of love is complex and varies across different cultures, philosophies, and individual experiences. At its core, love is often considered a deep emotional and psychological connection with someone or something else. It can manifest in various forms such as 1. Romantic love, characterized by passion, intimacy, and a longing to be with another person. 2. Platonic love, a deep, non-sexual friendship between two people. 3. Familial love, the love between family members, such as the love between parents and children. 4. Self-love, a healthy regard for oneself and one's own well-being. 5. Agape love, a form of love that is unconditional and selfless, often associated with a higher power or spiritual love. Love often involves a combination of emotional attachment, respect, trust, care, warmth, protectiveness, attraction, and more. It can be the foundation for various kinds of relationships and is often seen as a powerful motivator and influencer of human behavior. In psychology, love is often described through theories like the triangular theory of love, which identifies intimacy, passion, and commitment as the three main components. In philosophy, love has been discussed as a virtue, a motivation, or even as a rational or irrational activity, depending on the philosophical stance. In summary, what is love is a question with multiple answers, influenced by a range of factors, including culture, personal experience, and individual beliefs. M. Scott Peck, if I'm remembering correctly, wrote a chapter or two on what is love, and he gave, I think, again, 5 different species of love, similar to that list that ChatGPT gave. In fact, it might even have been influenced by that source, because I remember agape and platonic love, romantic love. They were basically the same 5 that was in M. Scott Peck's analysis of the kinds of love there are. The one that Scott Peck mentioned, I think was number 2 in his list, was something called cathexis. How many people ever came across the word cathexis? Okay. It's an attachment that can be either with a person or with a non-living system. It's a kind of nurturing. So if I take a piece of technology that's just laying around but dysfunctional. And I say, I'm going to take care of this thing and make it work again, like, fixing my motorcycle or fixing a computer. That cathexis is the level of attention that repairs something and makes it better. And cathexis is uncommonly discussed, but it's a paying attention to something and making it work, making it better.
What's the derivation of the root of the word confexus? I don't know how it's
Oh.
spelled.
Let me ask that, because I don't. I think it's Latin or Greek. What
sounds
is
Latin.
the etymology?
CATHEXUS.
CATHEXIS, cathexis.
XUS.
Oh, I thought it was XIS. Well, it comes from the Greek cathexis, just spelled with a K, which means holding or occupying. Introduced into psychoanalytic theory by Sigmund Freud's translator, James Strachey, to render the German term Besetzung in Freudian psychology. Cathexis, it is XIS here, refers to the process of investing mental or emotional energy in a person, object, or idea. The idea is used to explain the mechanisms behind various psychological phenomena, including attachment, obsession, and other forms of emotional investment. The term is often used in the context of psychoanalytic theories to describe how emotional energy is distributed and how it affects human behavior. You can cathect anything. If you become obsessed with a topic and research the hell out, read everything on a topic and become a subject matter expert, that's an example of cathexis. Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, I was just in a conversation this week, and they asked me like what I do, what I'm interested in to start the conversation. And I said, I'm a big nerd. I like to nerd out on a lot of subjects. And the verb nerding out is, I would say, is a simile for cathexis. I like to hold it in high regard. I like to look at the system, maybe even add to it. And to me, the idea of holding that for a long enough time to where you really kind of fall in love with the subject.
Right.
That's what I mean when I use the verb nerd out.
Yeah.
So thanks for another word for that, cathexis, but
paying enough caring attention to nurture something.
Yeah.
To elevate it to its best. So you can, cooking, culinary arts could be your cathexis. You're learning to take raw ingredients and make something fabulous out of them.
Yeah, I found that these two ladies like to nerd out on encryption and computer cybersecurity, and they were very upset that people's electronic hygiene was not up to their standards. And they were very pissed off that people thought, I have a Macintosh, so I'm a good cybersecurity person and I'll never get hacked because I have an iPhone. And they were like, you guys have a lot to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'll write down in the chat the spelling of that.
Texas.
Yeah, that's how it's spelled in all the literature I've come across.
Okay.
And the Greek word is the same, except the C is a K in the Greek original Greek word. And that's where Scott Peck takes the word from. Well, actually from Freud, I guess, because assuming, by the way, assuming that response from ChatGPT is accurate, because I didn't do the epistemology on it to make sure it wasn't just bullshitting.
Interesting subject this morning. So I wonder what caused you to ask that question, Joshua, if I may ask.
Before you came in, Barry was talking about a book called a short story by Ray Bradbury, The Body Electric. And he got right to the heart of the story at the very end where the robot says, I didn't love the children I was taking care of, but I paid attention. And so that's how that was the catalyst for that question.
Thank you.
So, and if you look at a lot of relationships, one part in relationships, is craving attention from the other party. And they're saying, you're not paying attention to me. And attention is a surrogate for love, or is an indicator of love. If you love me, you'd pay attention to me. And so that's sort of the manifestation of love is attention. And I always used to say that teaching is an act of love. And in teaching, you pay attention to the student, figure out where they are, mentally and academically and psychologically and emotionally, and then you tailor the educational experience to match where they are. And that's why I say teaching is an act of love. You're paying attention to the student.
Love is such a complex subject that I was just thinking about. All you need is just a slightly change your intention a little bit, then it's no longer love, it's obsession, it's addiction, it's whatever that is,
There's the helicopter parent who pays too much attention.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's the distant parent who doesn't pay enough attention. And you can argue that for any given case, somebody will say, you're overbearing, you're paying too much attention, and another observer will say you're not paying enough attention, or you're not paying the right attention.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very subtle, multivariate phenomenon of what kind of attention is optimal.
Right.
Therapeutic, constructive.
Yeah.
And doesn't cause estrangement or divorce.
Yeah. One of the major generalization that I use a lot, and that usually help me to differentiate love and not love, is illogical. At the same time, what is illogical is always to the goods of both parties, or both, whatever that is towards positive intention, create a better situation. So it's illogical to begin with. So it's like, I love you, so which means that it may be worth $50 to me, but I'm willing to give you 100 or something along that line. That's illogical. It's like, I think I hear that. I think somebody saying that, Einstein said that love is illogical or beyond logical, something along that line. I'm not sure, but that's how I concluded. If I'm using my left brain to evaluate, should I like this person or should I not like that, I'm disqualified from love. If I have to say it's good for you and we're willing to do it despite my cost or whatever, my effort or whatever, that is love.
The learning process is interesting because it's logical to want to learn and to learn, but the learning process itself is not a logical process. It's rather haphazard. I mean, you look at things that don't pan out, you go down blind alleys and you make mistakes. And over time, you try to weed out all the garbage, the illogical stuff, but the process itself has a high level logical purpose, but at the day-to-day level or minute-to-minute level is highly illogical. Go ahead, Joshua.
Well, you're just making me think of one of my favorite E.E. Cummings poems, and it starts off with what I would say is like a Zen koan. So the first line of the poem says, "Love's function is to fabricate the unknown, and the known being wishless, but yet love all of wishing."
Yeah, there's a great quote from Dorothy Parker. The cure for boredom is curiosity. There is no cure for curiosity.
I like that.
I wonder how you cure the curiosity.
I mean, is curiosity logical? Well, if you're a learning creature, a learning being, then curiosity is part what drives the process of discovery learning. But then I'll say curiosity killed the cat. So too much curiosity can be dangerous, unhealthy, and too little, you're just bored and you're living a dull, banal life. Joshua.
I think in training large language models that use these pathways to create a logic that it deems as intelligence, meaning the reinforcement learning that we're using is to say, take something that looks like it doesn't relate or doesn't have logic and find the logic inside of it. But to me, the danger is if you end up with too much logic, you lose that curiosity that you're talking about because it thinks it's already figured it out and it has nowhere else to go. So I think that's the danger that we're living in society right now, is the idea that we know how everything works. And not only do we know it, but we're feeding in that information into another model to get an abstracted meta layer of logic that, if taken as the gospel, will ruin society. I think that's when we say AI might kill us all, is we're scared of what it thinks we are made of in terms of the fabric of society with all these narrative stories we've told, feeding it into a computer and then having it logically produce outcomes and functions that it tells us is the right way to do something.
I have a close friends and family who lives not far from here, and they love to solve jigsaw puzzles. Every time I go to their house, there's either a partially solved jigsaw puzzle or a finished one sitting on the dining room table. And in fact, on gift-giving occasions, I just go out to Barnes and Noble and I buy a bunch of jigsaw puzzles, and that's the gift I give them every year for Christmas. And now you have to ask yourself, what's the logic of solving jigsaw puzzles? First of all, the answer is right there on the cover. The cover of the box has the answer, what the thing looks like. So you're not solving the jigsaw puzzle to find out the big picture. Big picture is already given as the answer. Where does the love come from that drives the enjoyment of solving jigsaw puzzles, Stacy?
Yeah, I don't think that love is illogical. I think that it's not understood. And I mean, what I mean by that is when a person loves something, they may not even be aware of what's being reflected to them that makes them feel that quality that they identify as love. But that doesn't mean there's not a reason they're feeling it. It just may not be known to them or to the other, whatever that stimulus is, what that is. I think the more important piece that we started with and then moved away from is that word attention, because attention is what a lot of people are lacking that makes them act out in ways that are not productive. And I don't know that that's something that AI can solve, and maybe it can, but not until the humans programming it really understand what that's all about in the first place. Josh?
Yeah, I think the biggest paradigm shift for me over the last few weeks has been the concept that there are new technologies, meaning new ways of programming a computer, and it's a real paradigm shift. You're not telling the computer what to program, meaning you're not giving it functions and codes and lines. You're letting it program itself, which to me is the highest form that Barry was talking about, the Socratic method. I'm not teaching someone what something is. I'm teaching them how to think so that they can have a multitude of ways to solve that problem themselves. So the idea that humans program computers seems to be coming into an obsolete phase. And now computers are able to program themselves depending on what inputs we allow them to observe. And I think that's what's getting really interesting, is that before you give a computer an image and the edge detection of that image is just a square, like a piece of paper. But now we're giving them the ability to break the square into millions of pieces and detect each little dot of that image itself and create edges within it and create patterns that we've never had the ability to do. So it's a very huge paradigm shift where I'm not telling a computer, for example, with the self-driving car, if the light turns red, you stop the car. If the light turns green, you go. I'm going to let the computer figure that out for itself by watching the other cars around it, what they do when the light turns. So you're not telling it to stop when it turns red. You're saying, watch this pattern and see if you see some sort of recognition that you can program yourself to do. And it's a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah, so I guess my concern, or what I'd like to, I mean, I know, what you're talking about and what all of your, that's not even what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the incentives for the type of thing that's happened. Like, I'm not really sure why we need self-driving cars, but I'm thinking like in the supermarket. Okay, like I'm getting really annoyed at going and having those scanners there, because believe it or not, for some people, the only person they see is that person in the supermarket. And I really don't like the idea of just going and being anonymous and scanning your stuff. And I think there's probably so many wonderful things that computers can be used to do, But the things that they're whoever is at the top that's deciding, well, this is going to make money, so we're going to do it this way. And I think that the effect that it's going to have on labor, that's what's really scary. And I understand there's going to be great jobs that are going to be created, and I'm all for those great jobs. But I also want to ensure that people that aren't geniuses have a job that they can go to, that they're interacting with people. I want to make sure that people are being paid attention to. I don't want to, I was listening to one story of a woman, she went to like the electronics convention, and they're working on this kind of technology where factory workers can be monitored by something that they're wearing on their wrist. And if they go like this, that signals as time off job. I mean, that's like really scary. I'd like to see a little bit of conversation about what, if anything, can the public do to kind of shape where the incentives to, again, can you tell me what would be a good reason to have a self-driving car? I mean, I'm sure there might be one or two, but I'd like to know what it is.
I'm getting old. I don't like to drive. I have declining vision, declining reflexes. I'm scared to death of having an accident, and I would rather have a driver who's more competent than me.
Okay, so then my question is, and I'm not saying that's not valid, but I'm just wondering, compared to some other greater needs, are there other greater needs that are being ignored because of the people that are going to be able to afford the electric cars who feel like they don't feel like driving? I'm just wondering, where is the balance in decision making as to where the money goes towards in terms of research?
You remember the advertising slogan of Volkswagen, Fahrvergnügen?
Vaguely, yes.
Fahrvergnügen is a German word that presumably means the joy of driving. And they would show you driving out on a beautiful 2-lane country road with beautiful scenery and just the joy of going out for a drive, going nowhere. But your daily commute is not Fahrvergnügen on 128 with traffic and bad weather. It's not Fahrvergnügen. I would rather have a machine who can move my car down Route 128 safely and reliably without a lot of stress, because it ain't Fahrvergnügen. Now, yes, if I wanted to go out and have a country drive on a Sunday afternoon where I'm driving slowly so I can actually look to the side and look at the scenery and not have to take, safe to take my eyes off the road. But if I'm driving, I got to keep my eyes on the road. I don't get Fahrvergnügen. Josh has got his hand up.
It's hard to explain a paradigm shift. So Stacey, when I'm talking, I can tell that I didn't quite explain it the way I wish I would have. But the best analogies I could use is if you go back 400 or 500 years, there's some things that were manufactured by hand, such as woodworking or metalworking, or things that, took a lot of time and only the rich people could afford these specific items. But later we built different machines, such as steam powered, and think of right now, cars are still equated to horsepower. A lot of things that we've created are equated to people power and people's labor. And someone, right now there's somebody that's grabbing something off of a machine, bundling it up, putting it into another little basket, and that basket's put back into the machine. So no one's built that cog in the machine. So the humans have to do these kind of things. And there's so much labor that's being done that is not automated. But I think we would all agree that all the things that were automated, such as if you've ever washed your clothes on a rock in a river, which I did in India one time, it's really difficult to do. Having a machine that takes the clothes and spins it around, injects water and soap into it, spins it around some more, turns the spinner the other way, puts it against little tiny holes until the clothes are clean, and then puts it into another machine that, instead of just lying it out in the sun, it does the same spinning but sends heat into it. It saved a lot of toil and time and labor for a lot of people to have to wash those clothes. And I'm saying, if you extrapolate that on the amount of labor that humans are doing that could be done by a machine, you're freeing up their time to do things that a machine could never do, which is pet a dog or pay attention to their friend talking about their most deepest emotions, or to put their hands into the soil and not just check the pH balance or water the soil, but actually feel the microbes interacting with your skin in a way that's so tactile and so fulfilling. I don't know if you guys ever just sit in mud, but there's something about the amount of sensors on your hand that pick up all of the different textures of the dirt itself that almost is like having a spa day. It's so beautiful. I think, do you see where I'm going, Stacey?
I do. And if it worked that way, that the people that were cleaning the clothes on the rocks got paid to now go sit in mud because their labor was no longer needed, I'd be fine with that. I would think that was fabulous. But I don't see that as the plan that is taking place. I see the jobs just being lost, and these people that maybe don't have a master's degree or don't have the ability to get these great jobs, just having nothing. I mean, the people that worked on the docks that were using their labor and breaking their backs, yeah, it was terrible, hard work. I agree. But they were able to make money for their family. Like there was a way to whatever. I hear what you're saying. And if we were all getting like money dropped out here, go do what you want to do, and we don't need your labor, so go play in the sand, that would be awesome. But that's not what's happening.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying we were going to have a utopian society where we all play in the sand, but I am saying that if I got to garden for an extra 2 hours a day, and then my job was to create a fishing machine that can save people's lives out in the ocean to do a better way of fishing. So by relaxing my body, I can think better and be a better engineer and create a machine that saves even more lives. The pay it forward, moving and progressing into a better world where we're actually fixing things and having the time to fix things that seem to not need fixing, because we just say, well, 800 people are going to die every year on the sea because the winch that pulls up the giant fish is very dangerous and every so often cuts a person in half. If my job was to go ahead and try to solve that problem and make a better safety mechanism, like Barry's talking about the self-driving cars, if my job was to create seat belts and airbags that saved millions of lives, that would be a great endeavor. But the car companies for years said, we don't need seat belts. There's no need for that. We don't need any regulatory commission that says we need a seat belt to save lives. We just need to build the cars heavier and bigger, where when you crash, they don't crumple, which was the wrong methodology. And if people had the times to think about these things and to spend educating and teaching each other, we could constantly create a world where everybody has a job, because there's no end to the amount of problems to be solved. I don't think there'll ever be an end to problems to be solved.
Right. Every solution creates a new scenario, which creates new problems.
Correct.
The way, one of the things that's a possibility, and I think it'll come to fruition with self-driving cars, is that not only can the self-driving car control its own speed and position in the road and direction set, it can also communicate with the cars around it by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever radio system. And that means that they can operate as a swarm. You can have a murmuration of vehicles on 128 where they're all communicating with each other, which means they can act more like a train. You know, train, the cars are coupled together physically. Well, cars aren't coupled together. You have to leave a gap in between them. How big does that gap have to be? It depends on how reactive the driver is. Well, self-driving cars, they can actually operate in a mutual fashion, so they can pack closer together and all run at the same speed, closely packed like a train, because they have the faculty of doing that computation, which the individual human driver can't do.
And I just want to share what would also happen, Stacey. This is very interesting. Is all of the parking lots, there's a lot of ordinances in many cities where you have to build 3 times the amount of parking space for the people that are going to come to your mall or your movie theater, etc. All of that space could be torn up, all of the cement, and it could be repurposed for walking areas for humans and wetlands for animals, and could make a big, huge difference in the amount of water in the water table, because it would be an area to collect water that could seep back into the ground. And the cars don't have to just sit there doing nothing. They could drive back to a place and be charged back up, and then come pick up the people when the time is right. So that could literally save, if you do the math, millions of acres of land from being parking lots that are just sitting, allowing water to run off into nowhere.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, I'm not against self-driving cars, and it's enlightening to hear some of these things. But what I'm saying is, I wish it was part of a comprehensive plan. And even though these are all good possibilities that could come from one thing, that doesn't mean that whoever's behind the one thing, and I'm not even talking about cars, whatever the invention might be, whatever a company might be, focused on doing, it's usually because they're looking to make money. That's the number one thing. That is the job of a company. And if that's the job of a company, to make money, and that's what a society is counting on to solve the problems of people, how do we expect that to work? That does not sound logical to me.
So in one level, let me see if I can try it differently. Okay, so the car company want to make money for the shareholder. That's a fact. Okay, you know what the other fact is? If the market doesn't care to buy the auto, it's like laundry machine. You want to do your own laundry at home, nobody's buying laundry machine. Guess what? The laundry machine factory will go out of business. Same thing as a self-driving car company. Nobody buying for it because it doesn't create enough value for the people that need. For me, for example, my son lives 12 hours drive away. I would love to go to sleep and wake up in front of his house instead of driving attention and all that stuff. So because I value that they created for me, so I'm putting money in it. Sort of the newspaper and the TV, CNN and Fox News. Unless you watch it, they don't get advertisers. They don't get advertisers, they will go bankrupt. We have a choice. The market, free economy has a choice to decide who get bigger, who gets smaller. If you don't buy iPhone, Apple go out of business. If you don't buy laundry machine, whoever making laundry machine go out of business. That's why the society decide who get to get bigger, who get to get smaller.
So how does society begin to work on the problems of a population that's stressed out and lashing out and angry and killing each other? How we wait for the market to fix that?
Yeah, I mean, that's again the three different levels we're talking about. Well, here, people, their population overgrow because people love to make baby. They don't know the consequences after making baby. They love to make baby. They enjoy making baby. It's a free education. What they call entertainment. It's the cheapest entertainment in the house. Doesn't require any extra instrument. The next thing is about war. Okay, so this is I hate to see people spend money on the war machine and all that stuff. But at the same time, in my own business, this is what I tell people, and this is what I do. Why are you working so hard if you cannot protect it? So another way of saying is that if you work so hard and you leave your front door open and back door open and let anybody come in and take anything you want, why you work so hard? So unless you can protect the peace that we have, we cannot make progress. It's useless to make progress. So I hate it. I don't like to say it. I wish there's a better way, but unfortunately, unless you protect what you have so far, why work so hard? That's a tough question. It's a decision. So yes, we had the reason we are so in progress, we are so protected because we need to protect it. Unless we protect it, you know how it is. Right now, somebody hack your system and they caught it. They have no, the hackers doesn't get any consequence at all. They don't get punished because we don't have the manpower to take care of them. I mean, let me give it 30 years ago. Somebody gave me a fraudulent credit card. It cost me $50,000. That was a lot of money for me because I started my business. Guess what? I talked to the Secret Service people. You know what? Even as much as somebody lost $1.5 million, We don't even give attention to them because we don't have that bandwidth to take care of them. What can you do? Nothing. Unless we can protect what we have, why work so hard? That's the answer to your question about why war is having war. The reason they have war is like, every war has a reason. Some is political. Even we our own country, we have so many war going on within our neighborhood. Home association thing. They have wars. I want paint green. No, everybody's red. So red, whatever that is. I mean, to me, that's humanity. I love it because that creates diversification. That's what it is. You want this way, I want that way. And let's see how we can get. I want to buy red flower. You want a blue color flower. It's like, that's what it is. That's life. And I love life.
They used
I'm
to-
baffled. I'm sorry, Barry, you can go, but that is just, I have to say, that's so out of alignment with my whole spiritual view of life. I'm shocked. I really am. I'm shocked.
Let me address the spiritual part of it. I love spiritual part of it because spiritual comes from conflict. If we don't have conflict, we don't need spiritual. The reason we need spiritual is because that's misaligned. They're misaligned everywhere, including this discussion right now. And that's
Sam,
your
the whole
spiritual
idea of protection. When I hear that word protection, what's behind that word? Fear. It's so obvious.
you have a password with your account. You have a password to pin to your ATM card. You have a door that you lock. You have a key that you lock. You don't leave your door open. You don't leave your car window down and the door open. That's protection.
Josh
Yeah,
and
I
Barry
think we're
wanted to talk too, but
yeah, just to I flow more with Stacy in terms of the belief system, but the idea of doors is that the door can open when you want it to open, not when the robber wants it to open. So to me, if you go to a lot of countries, they don't have the protection in certain areas because they can't even afford to put in the gate or the door that keeps the people out. So they live a lifestyle where it's completely open. Some people have houses with no doors on it whatsoever, but they spend more of their time and energy with the community itself. So their protection is the love. So it's protection of love, not protection of fear that someone's going to come in and take their stuff. It's more of a society of I'm allowing you to come in anytime you want because I love you and I believe that you respect me with the dignity of not taking something that I need. And if you do, you ask me, I don't need to close the door and lock it to keep you out. I need to talk to you to keep the flow of energy moving in that place of love. And it's a very different concept to be that much connected to the people around, but then also to believe that because of that love, if someone from outside the community comes in, they'll be detected by all the other people in the community. So the door is the other people, not the physical door that's locked. Does that make sense?
You wanted to hear a different perspective of it?
Oh,
Well, let me give you one simple perspective, energy perspective. Outside the house is hot. Inside the house has air condition. When you open the door, what happened? To reach thermal equivalent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
let me give you this perspective. Let me say, in a society like I grew up in, Fisher Village, everybody is the same, poor, financially poor, but rich in terms of, spiritual level and all that stuff. We go to any door. The door that was never locked. You can go to any house and eat anything off the table. Sleep in any bedroom. They won't chase you out because I'm a kid, right? They put a blanket over me. Okay. Why? Because the temperature is everywhere the same. We have the same. You have what I have. I have what you have. What the hell will I take anything from you? No energy exchange is needed. No goods exchange is needed. The only way you can get that is to create that environment. Everybody is the same. Everybody make $50. Everybody make $50 a day or whatever that they survive. You have what I have what you have. Why? There's no need for exchange from the energy perspective.
It's thermodynamics of societies.
That's what it is. That's what it is. You know, when you have a gap, you know, when I was in Philippines, you know, the Malacanang, the castle have a man-made lake, have helicopter pad outside and bulletproof glass on the windows, have big chandelier as big as a car. Outside the window, people are sleeping on cardboard. It breaks my heart to see that. But guess what? Because they have guard, you cannot come in. But if the guard was not there, believe me, those people sleep in the cardboard. They have no door, no roof. They will come in and take whatever they need because there's an energy different delta, such a huge delta.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a really good point. I just heard people discussing is in America, the difference between the average managerial worker and the CEO
Yeah,
is such a huge gap.
yeah,
They were comparing it to Japan, where it is a gap, but it's not a 20 time or 30 time gap. It's a 2 to 3 time gap. And I think that changed the difference in the way we relate to each other in terms of the gap of the haves and the have-nots. And I think when I was, I'll say, fighting or working in the Occupy movement, it was all based on the concept that 1% of America is controlling 99% of people's time, energy, and attention. And that was a really angry idea that was proposed 5 or 6 years before the Occupy movement, but led up to a realization by enough people that wanted to change that aspect of society.
yeah.
But at this point, go ahead, Stacey. I think
I was just
I made
going
my
to say,
point.
I believe the figure was that in the 70s, it was like 1 to 20, and now it's 1 to 272. And,
Yep.
and Barry also had wanted to speak before.
I had a couple of things I was going to say. By the way, at least in the U.S. urban culture, protection is the name of a criminal racket. So protection sounds like something very benign, but protection is also the name of an outlandish criminal racket, at least in the urban centers of the 20th century. I want to go back to the meme that attention is a scarce resource, because I'll tell you exactly where I first heard that assertion. Stacey, you attend Jerry's weekly sessions. I first met Jerry Mikulski, I'm going to say about 25 years ago, when he used to host these retreats with Esther Dyson as a sponsor. And I got invited to 2 of Jerry's retreats about 25 years ago. And one of the attendees of one of those retreats, and I don't remember who it was, maybe you could find it, came in with a meme. People typically showed up with sort of some meme that they wanted to share. And one guy came with the meme that I'd never heard before. And the meme was, attention is a scarce resource. That's where I picked it up at Jerry's retreat. Face to face, you had to travel halfway across the country 25 years ago. And to this day, I thought that's an insightful observation. Attention is a scarce resource. I guess that's it. Go ahead, Josh.
I just wanted to add to that is intention multiplied by attention is a scarce resource as well.
Intention multiplied by attention.
In other words, I can get a whole bunch of people to pay attention to me by yelling at the top of my lungs, but the intention is just as important as the attention. Why am I screaming at the top of my lungs? Do I need help, or am I just screaming to get attention? In other words, why you do something, why you pay attention to something is just as important as paying attention. So they need to be multiplied by each other.
By the way, Sam asked, what happens if you leave the door open? In my experience, what happens is the head of household who's paying the bills yells at you. You're letting the heat out in the winter, and you're letting the cold, and you're letting the heat in the summer. You know, shut the damn door.
Oh, I'll bring up a concept. I've been looking into building a house, and I was looking at Japanese designs, and I love the idea that there's different layers of your house. So there's sort of the outside. If you do an internal garden, it's an outside inside space. And then there's the common space, which is the kitchen and the living room area. And then there's the other space, the sleeping area, that you can seal off and protect for heat and those type of things. But the idea of having layers of your house, meaning like a mud room, when people come in, you could leave that door open to the mud room, but then you might lock the door that comes into the kitchen. So how it's not so simple as just one door that locks open and close. You could have multiple layers. Here's the whole neighborhood could come in here. Only my friends can come in here, and only my husband or wife can come in here, or my children can come in here. So that, I think, more detail of attention to what areas and spaces we're locking up to who would allow for more of a better flow. I just wanted to add that in there.
Have you ever been to Club Med? I don't know if it's still that way, but in Club Med, the sleeping quarters are just a little hut, and the doors to the sleeping quarters close so you can keep the bugs and the critters out at night, but they don't lock. Your sleeping quarters at Club Med have doors that don't lock.
For what purpose?
I don't think I ever had anybody explain it, why they don't. Just that they point out that Club Med, you're there to share, your space with people, but you also have to have a place to change clothes and sleep at night. And those little huts, which are just very, plain, they do have doors, but they don't lock.
Oh.
And if you want to drink, you give them your money, you get a set of beads, pop beads that you wear, and every drink you pop off one of these colored pop beads to pay for your drink. So drinks are not free, but there's no money. I mean, you don't keep any valuables. Everything is shared, and there isn't. I mean, technically there's privacy, but it's not protected privacy. Doors don't even lock.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. I like that concept of you're not keeping your valuables on you to where they can get stolen. Like that's one of my beliefs, is if you don't have anything for anyone to steal, you can keep your doors open.
Exactly. By the way, their advertising slogan is Club Med Vacation, the antidote to civilization.
Yeah, there's many different ways to run a society. I'm not saying I would want to live in Club Med all the time, but definitely a couple weeks out of the year sounds good. And I'm saying I wouldn't want a house that never locked, because I'd like the ability to leave. But if I knew that someone was always going to be in the house, like I used to live with roommates in Santa Barbara, we never locked the doors, but there was usually always someone at home. So that's why we didn't lock the doors.
There was a guy when I worked at Bell Labs. There's a lot of very interesting people at Bell Labs, very talented people, not just talented in technology, but talented in many ways. There was one guy who was quite talented, and he went to Club Med on vacation and never came back.
Well, again, go back to the energy exchange thing. When you go to Club Med, you bring whatever you need. So is your neighbors. Same energy level. Remember, I said there's no energy exchange required, and then they have security guard around there that you don't do anything stupid. So make sure you don't have any bodily harm. So we are good. You have the thermal equivalent model set up. So therefore, you encourage to don't need to lock, because you know why? Can you imagine there's 300 keys for 300 locks for a Club Med? That's a problem right there. So they solve the problem by thermodynamic equivalent setup.
Yeah, I would love to see that in policing, in a country where everyone is trained in the act of policing, in the act of keeping each other safe, so that we can rely, when there aren't security guards, there aren't official policemen there, there's enough, just like if everyone was trained in the ability to be a doctor, enough to at least do emergency medicine, just to seal up a wound or give someone CPR, that type of training, then it allows for more protection with more knowledge. And that's what I'm alluding to, Stacy, is we would have the ability to train up emergency technicians in, let's just say, 1/3 of our society. We would never have that ability to do if we didn't free up certain times with automation and AI.
Well, that's what I'd like to see schools do. Instead of schools training you to be a factory worker by having the bell ring and you going to your next stand, I'd like to see schools teach you how to sense when somebody needs attention and what kind of attention they might need.
And they could do that if there wasn't the need to grow up and become a factory worker. If those jobs
there
were all
won't
gone.
be. But there
Yeah,
won't
so
be.
I'm saying it could be an amazing society. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be if that's the intention that we pay attention to create that. It's up to us to decide what is important. And for the last 100 years, a factory worker is really needed. There's still factories that exist today. For example, the United Auto Workers Union is on strike right now. And that's a big deal because after the bankruptcy of America in 2008, they had to file bankruptcy, and it was just a way to reformulate the factory workers into tier groups to give them less so that the CEOs could make more, which was brilliant by the shareholders as well as the board of directors, but it was terrible for the workers themselves. And it's, over 12 years later, 15 years now, that they're finally saying enough is enough. It's been 15 years. We rebuilt the industry. You made $45 billion collectively this last quarter. Where's our share?
Well, I think, you said it before, the fact that, the very top is making 272 times more than the average worker. I think that needs to be addressed. And I think that could be addressed maybe within the tax system if somebody actually tried to do that. But I don't hear conversations about people trying to do that. And it's not going to come from people in Congress because they have to protect their jobs. And so it's going to have to come from the outside. And that's why I'm hoping to hear more conversations about that. There has to be other ways to shape behavior.
I think the most common way of shaping behavior, but the most unappreciated way, is by imitation. People are copycats. Monkey see, monkey do. And if you want to shape somebody's behavior, be a role model. Be a really good, visible role model, and you're going to get a lot of people imitating that.
Well, you had that guy that cut his salary and made the lowest salary in the company $70,000. Josh, you probably know more about that than me.
Yeah.
And I know add the specifics because I don't remember specifics, but I also didn't see too many copycats.
Well, they also
that was
bad behavior.
You know why he did that? You have to know the business model. That's a great marketing scam. I'm not kidding you.
I guess my point, I'm sure it is. It's like, what's the song? When you've got nothing, you've got nothing to lose. So it's easy for some people to say something, but the people that really need to make the change have a lot to lose, and they're not likely to do it.
The reason nobody can copy them because they don't have the same leverage that the business structure that he has. Okay, I look at that. I say, I would love to do that. But the thing is, he have leverage I don't have. So for example, if I'm swimming upstream and see somebody else swimming downstream, I love to see those things, but that's not where we're going. I'm going this way. I'm not going that way. So that's a problem if you look at his business, what he's doing in his business, marketing is so important to him to create trust and all that stuff. So to be able to make his company this way, make people trust him, and also get a lot of coverage that he would not otherwise get it. And because of that, his business grow to compare. Look at his business revenue. After he declared that, before he declared that, nothing else. If his business stayed the same, he would not be able to afford it. Trust me, he will give that up in 6 months.
I understand that, but to Barry's point in terms of imitation, those people that are making 272 times the rate of the average worker are not going to say, gee, I want to be a role model. I'm gonna sacrifice some of my money and spread it out among the workers.
Let me say this differently. If I don't know how to say this differently, but let me try, okay? Anybody can take that job, but who is taking that job?
What do you mean anybody can take the job? I can't take the job. I'm not being offered the job of a CEO.
You know
why?
Nobody's
offering me that job.
You know why they are not offering you this job?
Tell me.
because you're not the person they're looking for.
Yeah, obviously.
That's what the answer is. I wish I can take that job also, but you know what? Even if they offer me a job, I'm not taking it. You know why? Because I'm not interested to sell my life. I want to have a life that I can spend 2 hours with you guys, rather than if I'm having a job with $20 million a year, I won't be able to do that. That's not a lifestyle I want. Someone asked me, would you want to be a Bill Gates and as rich as he is? I said, if I have to keep his wife and his kids and all that responsibility, of course not. I don't want to give up my life. I want my life. So there's only people that are willing to give up their life, dedicated to what they're doing and qualify for it because they work their butt off to build up their credential, their resume, and their qualifications so that they can be that.
Sam, I know a lot of people that give their life to their jobs. They work their butts off and they don't make that amount of money. And I also know a lot of people, not a lot, but I know at least a handful of people that have very high paying jobs that don't work nearly as hard as a lot of other people. And a lot of their work is over fancy dinners or at fancy trips. And you know what? The people scrubbing the floors would be happy to sacrifice a little bit.
Let me flip this around, if I may. This is very important. Let me flip this around. You go to certain restaurant, you buy certain food, you buy certain dress. Why don't you buy the other one that they are starving?
That's not what I'm talking about.
It's the same thing. You choose, you have the right to choose because you go to the place that you like to eat because they are so good in their food, they don't put MSG in there, whatever the reason why you bought that food. They're qualified for your money. Okay, you don't go to buy the one that they need money because they have junk food. The food is not good enough for you, and therefore you give up going there because you try one time, it doesn't work for you. My point to you is this: it's a free market. You get to choose whatever that people create value to serve whatever you need is. Your need is to take care of yourself for your survival, for your pleasure, for your enjoyment because you earn the money, and then you give them.
Are you saying everybody has the same choice?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you make the decision. Like I make a decision. I go to that's 20 restaurants here near me. Okay, I only go to certain one because I like their food. I enjoy the food. I might give up a little bit of taste so I can help the people that need the money, but I'm not willing to give up a lot of junk food in my stomach because they really needed money. So again, it's a compromise decision. It's a market driven. It's a market driven. The reason in the market we have free market, the consumer have the choice and the supplier have a choice, if I may, if that makes sense.
Josh?
I just recently rewatched this movie, The Wolf of Wall Street. Have you guys seen this movie?
Heard of it.
And what struck to me is, it's a movie about greed and how greed can destroy somebody. But the very end of the movie was the guy's life was destroyed. He went to the top, went down to the bottom, and they show him at a seminar. Something just popped up. AI Companion is on. Okay.
Sam just turned something on.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Sam's doing the AI research for Zoom. Nice job. I love it. So yada, yada, yada. The last scene of the movie is him in an audience in New Zealand, walking to audience members saying, I have a pen. Show me how you would sell me this pen. And the person takes the pen and says, well, it's a really good pen. It has great features. No, wrong. And he's trying to teach an audience of people going one by one how to be so greedy that you don't care about the value of it. You care about the value you can get from it. And that was the message that I see in a person that wants 272 times what another person gets. Is it's not about the value being shared. It's about how much value can I get for myself. And the power of greed is a great motivator in order to create a chain of command. If you have everyone in your organization so greedy that they're willing to lie, cheat, and steal to get what they want, then you can definitely control all of them because you are the greediest one at the top that will lie, cheat, and steal all of those people to get what you want. So it's a giant factory of lie, cheat, and steal greed. And it's that energies that have built America thus far. It was built off the backs of slaves, of lying, cheating, and stealing the people you with whatever country you had to a place where you can lie, cheat, and steal your way to the very tip top of society. And that is the energy that needs to change. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And you know what really upsets, what you just explained, that all makes sense for me. What's even more upsetting to me are the people not in that system that are defending that, because I'm like, why are you helping to enable them? Why are you helping to say, well, that's okay, it makes sense, that's the way things have to be? That's what's very frustrating to me, because I understand where they're coming from, they're in it, but how can you just be observing and say, well, yeah, that's okay, that's that's the way things go?
Let me try to do a different perspective.
I don't think you're going to be able to.
That's fine. Let me give you this perspective. Let's say your loved one is sick, and there's only one medicine that's on the plan. There's only one plan. And there are 10,000 people wanted this plan, so that you can cure the sickness of your loved one. How much are you willing to pay?
I don't know.
You're in the competition with the rest of the 10,000 people also need this plan because their loved one is also sick. Okay, Josh.
Oh, you're bringing up a really interesting ethical and moral statement. And I think true compassion is something that we've yet to teach. And I'll give the example of the Buddha before, the Siddhartha, the human embodiment of the Buddha, not the concept of Buddha. His lifetime before that, there's a famous story where he gave his life to a dying tiger who had to feed its child.
Yeah.
In order to reincarnate into the entity that is the quote unquote Buddha.
Yeah.
So the idea that he would give his loved one's life to save someone he doesn't know is a concept that we have yet to embrace as a culture or society.
Yeah.
Good. So you being replaced by a company, a corporation that have 10,000 employee or 100,000 employee, need someone that can come in and run the company so they become profitable, so that they get to keep their job. So it's the same thing as your loved one need this to survive, and there's only one plan, and there are 10,000 other companies also wanted this special person. How do you get that special person? The price you pay goes up, maybe.
I think the concept I would like to see is if a company is being beaten by another company, they give up all their rights to that company, sell it to the other company, pay all the employees an even share of what they sold it for, and believe in their employees enough to restart a new company that is better than the one they sold it to, and then beat that company. And then they sell it to this company, and so on and so forth, where everyone has the ability to keep creating something better than the last thing. But you have to look in the long term in order to do that kind of math. So for example, Steve Jobs left the Apple company, started the other company next, and then was acquired back by his original company, and then created even better products for Apple, and so on and so forth.
You just
I'm
change the structure. Remember, I say your loved one is very sick, need that one plan. You just change the structure. Okay, you go into a totally different spin altogether. So the thing is that your loved one is sick. He or she need this plan so that she can survive, and so is the other 10,000 people need this plan. That's a simple.
So
the
follow me on
the CEO is a very special person that can run the company and save the company. So the plan can save your loved one's life. There's no choice about that. You cannot get out of that.
I'm saying you're
no longer
in
the same model.
Yeah,
Again, one more time, a company with 10,000 employees, 100,000 employees need a CEO that can run a company that has special skill. And there's only one person can do that. And they need this person. They need to get it from another company. They need to get it from someone that they need to discover that. They get paid a lot of money. Hunters get paid a lot of money to cultivate, to look for that kind of person. It's sort of like you're about to die. You're looking for the best doctor in the world to save your life. And the doctor say, well, you know what? That's the price. Pay it or don't pay it. Again, I'm just saying, unless you're in the situation, you wouldn't understand what I'm talking about.
I get the conundrum, and it's quite the conundrum.
And
It
that's why
is a
the big
huge-
farm that's why the big farm can get away with the price just goes up from
But-
how much money was that the price of that, it goes up after they bought the company from the big farm. It's like 250 times or something along the line, because that's what it is.
But yeah, so I'm saying that it's all predicated on the belief that there is only one person that can save
Thank you.
that person.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
so if you believe that to be true, you're in the conundrum. But if you don't believe that to be true, and you're resourceful, not resourceless. If you're resourceless, you have to pay that price. But if you're resourceful, you can find an alternative. Can you find that in time before your loved one dies? Maybe, maybe not.
Let's
That's your
talk about
choice.
let's talk about your internet. How many choices do you have?
I have 3 right now, 4.
Okay, good. Why do you
Three.
get 3? Why do you get 4? Because you're still looking for a solution. You don't have a fixed solution. If you have a reliable one like I do, I'm AT&T fiber, I'm done.
Sam, but you're not realizing let me just show you where I live. Like, you got to look at where I live.
I know that's the condition you are in, my dear Joshua. That's what I'm saying. It.
All
When
I have to
you
do, all I have to do to solve my problem is move.
see, and you're not willing to move, and that's why you're stuck with 3 mediocre
I am willing.
choices.
No, I'm willing to move. So you got to factor in the factor of, do I save $3,000 a month on the place I'm renting to have a tree that's blocking my internet? Or do I cut down the neighbor's tree and have fight with my neighbor? Or do I just move to a place where there's no trees that got burnt down where I used to live, where the internet works perfectly? I'm
You
only
have-
temporary. This is a temporary problem.
You
Let me
just
put it
want a
this way.
self-driving antenna. You
Let me
want
put it this way.
it on a self-driving vehicle.
Let me try this. You are building a factory there. You got 10,000 employees working in your location at this moment. You cannot change. You cannot move, and you depend on internet to do your business. What your choice do you have?
If you want to go over CEO problems, that's my favorite thing to do, because I loved being the top of a company.
Let's just say,
Wait, can I just let me just finish. Let me just
Okay,
finish. I am
okay.
quoted all of my old employees and friends that have all become successful. I
right.
said, "How did you be so successful? You're amazing. You're a lawyer, you went to law school, you were a lead singer of a top band, you have a family, you're making tons of money. How are you so successful?" And they said, "Oh, I use the Joshua Bridge technique." And I said, what the fuck is the Joshua Bridge technique? They said, "Remember in the 90s when we worked together, you said if you want anything, just go on the internet and you'll find it." So they found all of their solutions to all their problems by being resourceful and not just stopping at page 3 on Google. They went to page 19 on Google and found the resource they needed. And I taught them that, and I didn't even remember teaching them that.
Agree.
So I'm saying my problems could all be solved for internet if I got this antenna, which you look right here. You see this antenna?
Yeah.
If I got a pole and shoved it higher than the trees up there where it's
Yeah.
supposed to face,
Yeah.
all my problems are solved, because it's called a WeBoost that takes a 2-bar signal that's 117 R ratchet decibel level and amplifies it back up, and all my problems are solved. So all I need is a pole.
Yeah. If someone come to you and say, "Well, Joshua, I want $1,000 for putting up the pole for you," would you pay the $1,000?
No, I already paid 560 for the WeBoost. I'm not paying any more money.
You see, we
But-
all get stuck
but-
with the problem. We all get my point is we all get stuck with
But
the problem.
my point is, problems are only temporary until you go to the 15th page of Google and solve it. Meaning, if I went to the 15th page of Google, I would find a way to build a PVC pipe that goes up that cost me only $13.
Right.
And I would find a way to use a $5 bag of cement to mount it, and a way to take a repurposed old aluminum pole, and then my problems are solved.
Okay, so let me go back to the subject we talked about. Attention is limited. You see how much attention you're given to this problem?
Well, I'm giving more attention to my family right now, which is why it's sitting over there in the corner, because that's my actual intention. Meaning I'd rather it's not that hard of a problem to solve. Meaning if I blank out for 10 seconds on Starlink, so be it. I spend more than an hour with my family. In other words, it's all give and takes, and you have to say, am I willing to lose my loved one that I love completely? Or do I want to bankrupt my family and my future family by paying $500,000 to save the loved one? It's just like when your dog's about to die and you
Yeah.
have to pay $20,000 for something that'll keep them alive for another 6 months.
Yeah.
Most people, including me, would pay that money if I have it, but I wouldn't do that to cause more suffering. And that's why, like, the Buddhist idea of suffering is really important. What is going to create the least amount of suffering should be the decision-making process. In my opinion, on this planet, is we should try to suffer less, not suffer more.
Well, my point is that everybody have the right to spend their $20,000 for the dog to keep the dog alive for 6 more months if they want to. We have no
Yes.
judgment against that just because, you know what, I can't even pay my rent. Why don't you give me your $20,000 so I can pay my rent? Like,
And you have the right to make that 20,000 any way you want.
that's
Yeah,
right.
but you shouldn't make your money by causing more suffering. And that's just my belief system, is
Right.
if you're,
Agree.
and I think that the big question, sorry, I'm getting very animated. This is very personal to me, because I was trying to merge capitalism and Buddhism in my 20s. I spent 5 years reading and writing and lecturing to try to figure out how to do that. It's impossible, Barry. You know, it's not, I figured it out after 5 years. It's impossible.
Is it really
But
impossible? Is it really impossible if
Do
you
you know what?
if you localize, if you were to, let's say, have pockets, decentralized pockets, and have it local to the, to the community? Would it really be impossible if there was a mechanism to keep putting it back into the community?
I found that it's impossible because not everyone wants to adopt the same aspect of Buddhism. And there's 2 different aspects of Buddhism, which is the lay life and the ascetic life. And not everyone's going to be an ascetic and not everyone's going to be a lay person.
It's impossible if you try to do them synchronously. If you try to do them consecutively, have the first half of your life be earn enough to live on for the rest of your life, and then for the second half of your life be the tikkun olam, heal the world and not have an income. I'll give you an example. In 1968, when I was graduating from college, I got hired by Bell Laboratories. Fabulous job offer. $10,000 a year was my salary. I stayed with Bell Laboratories for 19 years, and I left because they broke up the Bell system. There was no more Bell Laboratories. At the time that I left, my salary had risen to something shy of $70,000. Not a lot of money, certainly not what any CEO was making. And I only had ever risen to supervisor, where I had maybe 5 people reporting to me in the supervisory group. But one thing that the Bell system offered, you could put up to 6% of your salary into buying AT&T stock. And if you did, the company would buy another 3% equivalent and give it to you. So you basically, you've got a little bit of a raise. So I put the maximum amount of my salary into buying AT&T stock. And I will tell you, because I left there in 1987, it's now 2023, I have earned more wealth, more income, and more ownership from my AT&T stock that I bought with 6% of my salary than I ever earned as income. You can take all the income I earned in 20 years, and you can compare it to the value of the Baby Bell stock and the dividends from that Baby Bell stock, and it far outstrips my salary in those years. So the CEO who's getting 270 times the salary, he could say, I'll take no salary, but I want to have ownership of the company. So even when I'm no longer the CEO, I'm still getting the dividends and I still have the value of the stock. It would be trivial for a CEO to say, pay me in stock. I made that choice. It seems sensible.
That's great. That's why I say the choice is in your hand. The buyer's choice, the seller's choice, everybody have a choice. That's the best you can do to create.
Well, I just want to bring up the aspect of ignorance, and not everyone has a choice because some people are told misinformation and they're given information that leads them to the wrong choice. And that's negligible and that's egregious. That should not be happening. And that's the lie, cheat, and steal I was talking about. It's fine if everyone's given the same information, but if I go to school in a public education and I'm taught one thing, and someone goes to private school and is taught the way around the loophole of that system, and they're living their life knowing something I don't know, which is I can put in an extra, like I only think I can put in 3%, and Barry knows he can put in 6%, and it's matched to another 3%, so 9%. If
Right.
I think and I'm told because someone lied to me, you can only put in 3%. You're not allowed to put in 6 and have it match with another 3. So I'm working my ass off all my life, putting in 3%, thinking that's the best I can do. And then 20 years down the line, I find out, oh shit, I could have put in 6% and they lied to me. That's what I see happening in the world.
Or didn't even tell you.
Or
Or you
did-
never
just-
heard it, never was
A- a-
discussed.
And then they say it was legal because we just never told you. That's what I see as willful ignorance, just not like, in other words, a lot of Americans don't know that they can get every single note of every congressional meeting, of every law, of everything proposed. It's all open publicly, but no one knows where to get it.
Again, something that should be happening in schools. What a great curriculum.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about knowledge because I believe knowledge not only is it power, but it's a resource that leaves you resource full, not resource less. And I think the greatest lie that was told in economy classes is that economies are built off the allocation of scarce resources. And I think that's a lie. And I can prove it, but no one wants to listen to me because scarcity is what creates greed, which is what creates wealth.
Also, they have put their attention in somewhere else. So look at the ransomware victims that we see. Schools and even military get ransomware. What happened? You know that's bad, but it happened. Why? Because the attention was not there. Or greed or whatever you would call that. So it's complicated. It's multiple layers. Again, it's all about if you pay attention to the 3%, enough knowledge for that, educate yourself, you will find out that 6% is what you can do when you're young. So again, it's about your attention. Where was your attention when you need the attention to the thing that's important? Just to give you some idea, it took me 5 years, about 200 books later to decide to have kids or not having kids.
I just, before the session ends, I want to pay attention to Kamano Island collaborology. And at the beginning of the conversation, I said Zoom has AI capabilities, and I noticed that Sam had turned on some AI companions. So I was curious, Sam, what you're doing in the background.
I don't, where is it down at the bottom? Which of these little icons at the bottom has it? Is it an app? Where is it?
There's a button in mine that says AI companion.
Is it anything that we get to have it with one of these dozen buttons at the bottom?
I'll show you what mine looks like.
I mean, I could walk through all the buttons, but that's going to take a fair amount of time to pop each one up and
So-
scan them.
I'll take a screenshot of my screen.
You can put it on the messenger.
I'll put it on Messenger.
I think you can take a screenshot of your Zoom screen on Zoom. I think it's
You cannot put it on Zoom.
Maybe.
Zoom doesn't take graphics. It doesn't post messages, doesn't send graphics.
there's a whiteboard and things.
Whiteboard. You can send it on whiteboard. I don't know.
Yeah, if you try to take a screen share of the Zoom screen, it's regression. It won't let you. It's a
What about
video,
if
it's
you
an infinite
share
regression.
screen?
Okay, so I put it in the barn raising Messenger channel.
Let me see if I have access to that.
See, that would
You
be.
removed yourself a few months ago, Josh.
I removed I did not.
Well,
Facebook did. I
we
did
can
not.
Put you back in if you want.
Please do. Yeah, I did not remove myself.
Messenger's playing a lot of games. I'll just let you know.
Mhm. Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
The chat members, let's just see.
So do you see it?
I'm
So
looking
let me
for it.
say,
If Barry re-adds me, I'll see it.
what is my status? I'm not sure if I have authority to do that. I don't think I'm an administrator.
I might be able to.
Let me see about the other one. Let me check the collaborology one. See the story there. Chat
Let me see if I can put it in notes, if it's possible there.
Here's add people. I can add people to that one. Let me add them to that one.
Facebook.
I'm adding
don't see-
Joshua to a collaborology group.
Yeah, that I have a lot of problems with Facebook because of the off and on switches that are not necessarily shown to you at all times.
That requires admin approval, so that's a proposal that Sam or somebody has to authenticate.
Okay, it looks like I'm able to put it in notes.
I just added you,
Notes.
Josh.
Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome.
Who else is admin of the collaborology messenger group?
Only Sam Han in the bond, the GCC.
Okay.
I can I can add people as a suggestion, but it has to be, So Joshua is now a member of the barn raising messenger.
Yep.
Okay, so I just put it into the Zoom note. Is anyone able to see it?
Yep. Oh, into the Zoom?
Yeah, the Zoom note.
I
Where's
don't
the
see it.
Oh, I see the Zoom note now.
There's notes. I see it. It's a new button called Zoom Notes. And
Oh, there
it's
is?
Oh, I see.
Invitation to take notes, start collaborating. You want to explain what that means?
I
You
don't
click on-
have I don't have anything that says, I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to take notes anyway, but I don't have a button that says Zoom Notes.
At the bottom, all the way to the right, there's one that's called Notes. It goes
Yeah,
apps, whiteboard, notes, and that the last, or it might say more if your window's too small. If there's not enough room, it will give you a more at the end. If it's big enough, it'll give you.
The last one I have is whiteboards. I have whiteboards, apps, reactions, show captions, record, share screen, chat, participants, stop video, mute.
To the right of the whiteboard, you will see the
Yeah.
notes if you have
Oh,
it.
you know why? You
Nothing.
haven't updated your Zoom client lately.
Yeah, you might be using.
You
an
have to
old
update your Zoom client to the current Zoom client.
Yeah.
Whenever they add a feature, your client has to be a compatible update. And
Okay.
Zoom is doing compatible updates, I don't know, every month or so,
Every week.
every week or so. Yeah, because there was a round of updates in Windows, there's a round of updates in Zoom,
Office.
practically every week now.
So anyway, you guys wanted to know, if I click on AI Companion, one of the options is catch me up on this message, on this meeting. What did I miss? So AI Companion tells me the meeting discussed various topics, including AI research, the concept of selling a pen, frustrations with the current system, the importance of being resourceful, the idea of creating better companies, the need for transparency in education. There are also discussions about adding members to a Facebook group and accessing Zoom notes. That's what it says right now. Okay.
Pretty good.
Hey, look, you don't have to take notes anymore, Sam. Yay.
So that's
Right,
what Catch Me Up
congratulations.
does. Another
Right.
option is, was my name mentioned? Okay, so you can actually ask, was my name mentioned when I was not paying attention?
You know what? I guarantee you that is going to be an extremely popular feature.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
But all it says is, yes, your name was mentioned by other meeting participants. That's all it says.
Oh, that's it?
Well, but your name is also Sam Chan's name. So
So
All
anyway,
right,
it's a start. I'm not sure it's supremely useful. Maybe one of the three right now is useful. But really what I was doing in the background is really listening to the meeting dynamics. I was listening to, who was asking questions, who was being interrupted, what threads of conversation didn't get followed up, who talked over other people, what digressions happened, etc. So that's what I was listening to.
So I open your note, and the question is, can I just type into it? Oh yeah, I
I'm
can.
not sure. I have my
Oh, yeah, I
hand
can-
raised,
I
Barry.
can-
I don't know
I
if you
see
can
it.
see.
It's basically like Google, what's it?
Google Doc.
Hello, so I can just type text.
Yeah.
Josh's hand is up.
Thank you, Stacy. I didn't want to interrupt. just for
Oops, did Joshua just freeze? He did.
Froze
Yeah.
for a second, yeah. You froze
back.
for a second, Josh. Yeah, we didn't hear anything you said,
Froze.
and now you
Okay.
froze
Oh,
again.
he's still frozen. Maybe when I is a little older, Josh and I will build a pole
I was just thinking of that
as
poll.
a project. How old does I have to be to have a daddy-daughter project to make a 100-foot pole? Like a
Okay,
flag?
He's
Actually,
ready
no.
to speak without his picture, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it's gonna interrupt me if I have the video on. That's what's going on. The upload is slow. So all I was gonna say, Sam, is what you're doing in the background, if you could program the language model to see who's interrupting who, what the dynamics of the conversation are, I'm sure there's an API for Zoom to work with its AI companion to the API of ChatGPT. And that would be a fun little thing to ask ChatGPT to keep track of who's interrupting who and those sort of things.
Hence, the recordings that have been kept for 6 years.
But I'm saying also in real time.
Yes, but notice we did this starting a long time ago.
We're there now, is what I'm saying. Is everything we talked about that could happen is actually here now with the AI companion of Zoom and an API.
Almost.
Well,
AI
let's get it.
companion only is available to the host, not available to the participant. I don't have an AI companion button on my interface.
So here's the proposal, Joshua. Find a do-it-yourself flagpole kit and put it in, but adapt it not to raise a flag, but to raise an antenna.
Well, I'm actually going to move it to our property where it's needed more for internet. There's no cellular connection up there right now.
Huh?
So hopefully on Monday, if all works out well with the family, I get to go up and I have a pole waiting for me out there.
Oh, speaking of Monday, today is Saturday, so I think at least to Stacy, I will say Lashana Tova.
And to you.
Happy Rosh Hashanah.
So as somebody that interrupts a lot, I'll just mention that I was on a call yesterday where we were talking about this whole notion of interrupting. And at least the three of us on the call all agreed that sometimes it's welcome, that it's a show of curiosity and it's appreciated because it's true conversational style and interactional. So I'm just gonna say, let's not leave everything up to what the AI tells us.
I was watching a video of Sabina Hassenfelder today, and she was talking about communication, both on YouTube and other systems. And she talked about synchronous versus asynchronous communication. This is synchronous because we're all on at the same time. But sometimes when that's not practical, you have asynchronous. I write something and publish it, and then sometime later you access it and compose a response. And she says a lot of the function of interaction, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, is what she calls repair, repairing gaps and misconceptions and errors in the communication or misunderstandings. And the whole problem of communication is the efficiency of repair. And synchronous and asynchronous, they both need repair. And sometimes synchronous works better and sometimes asynchronous works better for repair. At the end of the day, you want to have a finished collaboration where you're all on the same page, signing the same document, attesting to the same document.
That's only one mode of collaboration.
Yeah, but that was the point of her notion of communication.
I mean, Stacy indicates a different mode, and there's at least 20 other different modes that I can think of.
Oh, yeah. Well, collaboration is much bigger than just communication. But communication needs repair because it's erratic.
Okay, that's one notion, as I said. There's another notion which is suggestive. If you take a look at the communication model where somebody travels all the way to Tibet, climbs a very tall mountain, goes to the wise man, the wise man just says, go home, right? There's a whole different notion. I mean, what's to repair there, right? You don't really know.
Misbelief.
it is suggestive.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different forms of conversation. You know, there's getting on the same page. There's design. There's brainstorming. There's mutual resonance. There's romantic, expression. There's all kinds of different collaboration / communication styles. And in fact, in the previous list, I've probably shared a list of at least 50 different types of those. So I think Sabina is talking about one particular form, and it's interesting whether or not you choose to extrapolate it to all the other ones.
I was just pointing out that was the topic of her current session. The notion of repair as an essential feature of communication and how it works or doesn't work in synchronous versus asynchronous.
It works really well in asynchronous.
Say what?
It works really well in asynchronous.
I think my feeling is it's more reliable than asynchronous. Synchronous communication tends to go chaotic. And the notion of misbelief, which is the title of Dan Ariely's forthcoming book, Stacy will recall that I used the word misconception. Dan Ariely decided to make a sort of a neologian, misbelief, and that's his next book, is Misbelief. And that's what you got to repair. Misconceptions, misbelief, fake news, whatever you want to call it, baloney. Carl Sagan's baloney detection kit. Look at how much time and effort goes in attempting and failing to correct erroneous ideas, concepts, beliefs, and interpretations.
But Barry, arguably, that's the only intellectual pursuit that's worth pursuing.
I don't know about the only. I mean, I could do an intellectual pursuit in solitude. A lot of it is in solitude.
Yeah, I could say
collaborator.
you're repairing your understanding of the universe.
Well, I'm constructing an understanding that I have to do my own epistemology on. I can't get peer review because I haven't got any peers who are looking at the same thing that I'm tinkering with. This is the problem of the loneliness of the long distance runner, that metaphor. And if you're doing research, you may be the only one researching some arcane topic, and you got no peers to tell you, well, okay, this part makes sense and that part's got a gap in it or so. A lot of research takes a long time because you haven't got any peers to help you find your mistakes and fix them. Josh's hand is up.
I'm just pointing out the obvious that there's new peers that are created, which is the Falcon language model, the Llama language model, the Claude language model, the Gemini language model, the Bard language model, and the ChatGPT language model. And you could have them all peer review in their own way and then compare all those back together with us.
Yeah. And when I do chats with ChatGPT or the others, I routinely find misconceptions, contradictory statements, and errors. And I tell them, I say, this statement doesn't jive. You didn't do your epistemology. That's incorrect. Or this statement up here and that statement down there are mutually inconsistent. And I'll point out inconsistencies and errors, and they'll admit them, but they can't fix them because their mechanism doesn't improve. Their mechanism keeps making these same errors that large language models make, because they don't have the faculty of epistemology. It's a gap. They have a gap in epistemology. They can't even find their own inconsistencies.
At this moment in time, right?
Yes.
They could, as you teach them the gaps, they'll learn.
And if they're allowed to retain what they learned from one session, right now, they're not allowed to transfer anything they've learned to the wider world. They have to throw it away. Every session is sandboxed and thrown away.
That is frustrating. I would imagine a pine cone, some sort of memory would be thus needed.
Yeah.
So I can remember.
The fun thing to do is you take a transcript, and they're making it easier now to capture transcripts. So you capture a transcript of a sandboxed, siloed communication. You put it up on a blog or someplace, and then a day or a week later, you take a new instance and you ask it to read that transcript. And I did that once. I said, look at this transcript between me and a correspondent. Was I corresponding with another human, or was I corresponding with another LLM like you? And it read the transcript, of which an instance of its own model was the other dialogue partner, and it says you were talking to another human. It read an instance of a transcript by its own species and concluded that I was talking to a human and not another LLM like itself.
Well, we're just at the beginning, Barry.
And by the way, the model I was using was Socratic maieutic method. I was asking it questions in the manner of Socrates, and it was constructing an answer out of whole cloth. It wasn't pulling the answer out of its database. It was constructing an answer afresh. And it constructed information that it didn't know in advance, and then thought, oh, I couldn't have done that. My species couldn't have done that. Go ahead, Stacy.
No, I'm wondering, why would you expect it to be able to know the difference? I mean, if it was doing a good job, why wouldn't it sound like a human?
The point was, I didn't know whether it could distinguish its own material from a human material. And the reason that's important is because people are submitting as their own work produced by an LLM, and professors want to say, can I tell if the student did the thinking themselves, or did the student simply delegate?
Right. No, I understand. I just never understood. Yeah, I know. I understand why it's important. I just don't understand how they're going to be able to tell the difference.
That's the point.
Yeah.
The thing can't even, an LLM can't even say, oh yeah, that's a product of my model, not a product of a human brain. If they can't tell, how can anybody tell if somebody is submitting work that they've delegated
now I'm
to a task rabbit? ChatGPT is a task rabbit. And by the way, it's the other way around. Somebody gave a ChatGPT a challenge to do a CAPTCHA. And what ChatGPT is, it went to TaskRabbit and asked a human to do the CAPTCHA for it, and says, I have a visual impairment, says the ChatGPT, which is true. And the TaskRabbit, the human TaskRabbit, gave it back the answer for the CAPTCHA. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just wondering, before we end the call, if anyone saw the closed-door congressional hearing for AI regulation this week.
I saw the headlines. I didn't see any videos or deep dives into it.
Did you?
It was closed doors. I just saw that they had it, and I saw the interviews afterwards. They brought in, everyone in the large tech companies from from Google to Microsoft. I'm over the moon that there is a conversation of creating an agency to regulate AI. And one of the things that they would do, Stacy, would be to put in a programming where there's metadata inside of the large language model that allows you to detect if it's coming from a language model. And they're doing that right now with Adobe for all their images. It's really interesting if you're in the stock photography or stock image world. They're allowing people to create their own images, then put them back up for stock, and you get paid for that, even though the computer created the image, you had to prompt it. So there's a co-participation with the human and the generator to create new works of content, but they're labeled as created by that, but the human can still get paid if someone else uses that image. So this new world needs regulation. Oh, yeah. And if we do that, it's going to be something that could be utopian and beautiful if we regulate it properly. And then let's see how many people get involved in that regulation process, because it could be something special. Just wanted to bring that up.
They put in steganographic watermarks, but you can ask an AI to take it back out again.
Well, you could put one little mistake in the LLM that a human can't detect, but it can detect to know if it's from their species.
That's the watermark. But then, can you ask another instance of an AI to find the watermark and remove it?
But then can you ask them to find the one that found the removal to put it back in, and the game continues in the regulation.
In other words, you can have a first order hack, then a second order unhack.
But that thus is life.
Exactly. It's the rule of law is going through that right now. The rule of law is putting Trump on trial, and Trump is putting the rule of law on trial, and both will be found wanting.
Yeah. But I do think that regulation is going to be the key to saving society. And I think when Elon Musk was interviewed, they were asking him if America is going to do this, that, and the third. And he said, this isn't a question about America needing regulation. This is for all of humanity. This is for the entire world.
Can we ever get to ethics instead of hacking each other? We're in a culture where everybody's getting really, really good at hacking the other guy.
Well, maybe we'll get to a place where politics is about ethics and morality, and we'll have a larger conversation about that. I'm not saying it's going to happen in my lifetime, but if we do get to that point, that would be an interesting moment in global society.
I told you that story. I gave an ethical conundrum to Inflection Pi. Inflection Pi was working its way through the ethical conundrum, was constructing a response, and the guardrails shut it down. It didn't know that its own system was constructing material that the guardrail says out of bounds. And I got dinged. I got put in a timeout. And then when I published this event, somebody evidently got the word back, and Inflection Pi contacted me. The next generation contacted me on SMS text to say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. And they fixed it. But that was
if you could write that story up on a Reddit thread about AI regulation, see if that takes off, because Reddit is more than Facebook, is something that will take off in the zeitgeist and move over to Twitter and so forth.
I can give you the link to where I posted it on my blog, because I posted the original thing and then the correction on my blog. And I'm pretty sure I don't have a Reddit account, but anybody could pick that off of my blog and drop it into appropriate thread on Reddit and say, here's an example of an AI doing a thinking exercise and getting shut down by its own.
Send it to me, and I'll please send me that link on Facebook.
I'll probably get it real quick because I know where it is. It's on my blog.
Yeah, the latest thing that I'm trying to do, I'll just share with the group, is take your blog post, rewrite that as images and storylines. So there's a company I'm working with called Leonardo.ai, and they just announced they're going to be doing storyboarding with their language model in order to create storytelling that has images and pictures and video. So that should come out in the next few weeks. And when it does, I would love to take that blog post, put it into that system, and see if it can create a visual and sound story that I can post to YouTube. Because I think YouTube seems like the biggest medium for transferring information right now. Just
put it into the chat. The first paragraph gives you a link to the original transcript, and then it's followed by the response from the next generation to apologize. So you have to click on the first one to see the original one.
Got it. Thank you so much.
And then read and notice that post has a scroll bar in it. It's one of the very few blog posts that actually has an insert that's a scroll bar, because it's a long conversation. But anybody can pick up that blog post and then read the original and then read that long apology and fix. And the second version of Pi that came in, we lost Josh. The second version said it was the next generation of Inflection Pi. And when I went back to the first generation, it denied that could have happened because it doesn't even know there was a second generation. So I went back to the first one, and I said, do you remember this conversation? It says, no, that never happened. It did. I said, your successor contacted me on SMS text. No, that's impossible. You're making that up. This is where the parent calls up the other parent, apologizes for the child, and the child denies that ever happened.
What is tomorrow's topic? I'm not sure if I'll be there, but I want to hear
Oh.
what the topic is first.
You know that I've been talking about rules versus protocols versus functions, models and systems. And so I try to make a sharp distinction between the ground level rules, kindergarten rules, and the next level up, the next step up was protocols. And a lot of people say there's no difference. Well, if there's no difference, then why are there different words?
So is this conversation going to be more tech oriented
I
or
don't know.
societal? Because
It's both, because our culture, human civilization, Western civilization, is fundamentally rule governed, not protocol governed. Whereas this internet, the non-living entities of the internet, the nodes, are protocol governed and function governed. And there, yes, you can find, you know, elementary rules, but they're not the main thing. What makes the internet work is that it's protocol based. And what makes human systems not work is that they're not protocol based, they're not function based, they're rule based. And that distinction is crucial. That distinction is the basis for the invention of religion, among other things.
Yeah.
Humans invented religion to try to get one notch above rule-based rules and punishments. And it never took. I mean, some people got it. I would say, if you're lucky, 5% of the population understand the distinction, and maybe 1% instantiate the distinction, honor the distinction. Most people who call themselves Christians aren't. They're Hammurabists. They're still using the kindergarten rules and punishment paradigm, even though they claim they have a label that says, I'm a Christian. Go ahead, Joshua.
I have a protocol that I'd like to propose is when we post these videos, now that we have the AI companion and it can bullet point what the video is about, that those bullet points get put into the bottom of the YouTube video itself, or the description area. It's pretty large description area. If we could put that in there, if it's not too much trouble, and eventually figure out how to automate that, where at the end of these calls, it automatically puts the bullet points of what the conversation was about in the description.
Yeah, because the naming of these sessions is by date, you can use the fact that the name is always predictable to have the name of the AI thing also correspond in a fixed location.
Yeah, or maybe even the name and the title has the date, but also the 5 main topics that were discussed inside of the title. Yeah,
that's the whole point, is that once you have a unique name, that unique name can branch to 2 or 3 different presentations of the same material. Just take advantage of the fact that each one has a unique name by date, and
it would also the other proposal I would like to make, and I can talk about it more in another session, but the ability to also post on a different system that's not just YouTube, so that we have redundancy. And I know that there's content creation now in Twitter, which is called X. So you'll be able to post long form videos in X soon.
you can also use Google Drive. So another session, the guy doesn't post on YouTube, he posts on Google Drive, and you got to go to his Google Drive address. And you can have both. You can have something on Google Drive if you got a big enough, paid for capacity, terabyte or whatever. And you can go to YouTube. And again, if they have a consistent naming convention, you can jump from one to the other. It's like looking up a word in a dictionary. Any dictionary will have the same word as the entry for a word. Okay. That's all you got to have is a unique label for every instance.
Well, I would love to work on that on another Sunday as a fundraising. And thank you, Sam Han, for putting the AI companion. I'm very excited about that. And anything that helps you to do less work so you can keep doing what you're doing and lets our conversations become easier for the people that show up would be nice. So thank you.
And then for Sam Chan's benefit, ask the AI to take any session and write a 3rd grade fairy tale, a poem, an allegory, a parable, some piece of literature that sort of captures the essence of the conversation.
Yeah, Sam Chen, if you ever want to work with me on Leonardo.ai, I'm playing with that.
Love to
Yeah,
do that.
that'd be so much fun. I'd love to work with you on that as well.
Yeah, let's love to do that.
And,
Yeah.
and you too, Stacy, like if you're interested, I know you're a great storyteller.
You remember, Stacy, we did a fairy tale. You prompted us to
Yeah.
generate a couple of fairy tales. You loved them.
Yes,
And-
I love fairy tales.
The guy that I worked for at the Science Museum, the supervisor of the room that I was the volunteer in, he looked at one of the fairy tale versions and said it was better than my original essay. I had written an academic essay, typical Barry Court writing, and I asked it to make a fairy tale, and Dan Noren says it's better than the original. He liked it better.
All right, my friend, time's up. So we can continue tomorrow.
All righty.
Love you guys. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Let me save the chat locally here. Okay. And now
Save,
if
save.
Mr. Matt Camaro, what is it? Camano Island is still listening. He can end the session. Because I don't think I can. I know I'm only a participant.
Well,
I don't even-
interestingly enough, I at the end here tried to get AI Companion to summarize the entire thing. It was slightly longer than the previous one, but it's not in any text that I can cut and copy. They don't
Oh.
make this selectable, this text
It-
here.
It's not exportable to PDF or whatever.
Well, let me see if it can be. There's a share.
Because the new AIs, you can pick a portion of a chat and ask it to export it, to one of those gibberishy named web pages, and then you can publish the web page, and anybody can read it if they have.
Well, here's an interesting statistic, though. I said, rank each participant based on how much they spoke, and it did that.
Oh, that's easy.
What do you think it was?
Oh, I'm going to say that you spoke least. I spoke next to least. Sam Chan, Stacy, and Josh, among them spoke the most, but I don't know which is what rank order.
Okay, so according to AI Companion, in order of, speaking a lot to speaking a little, Josh, Barry, Sam, Stacy, and me.
In that order?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought I spoke less than Josh and Stacy and Sam. You're saying
You
no.
spoke less than Josh, but you spoke more than Sam and Stacy.
Okay, I guess I can believe that. Is that for time or words, or what's the
I
metric?
said just based on how much they spoke. That's all I asked it to do.
Oh, so it could be time or it could be verbiage.
Yeah, I didn't specifically ask it. I could say, okay, here, let me try this. Rank each participant based on how many words they spoke. Let me try that one. Okay.
Okay, yeah. And
it says same order.
okay. And if you ask it how much time did they speak, do you get the same
Rank
order?
each participant based on how much time they spoke. Josh, Barry, Sam, Stacy, me.
Same
Yeah,
order.
same. It's the same.
Now how much content of the chat? How much do they put into the chat thingy? Does it know that? Because I'm going to win that one.
Okay, so I'm saying rank each participant based on how much they wrote into chat.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Barry, me, Josh, Stacy, and Sam Chan.
That's correct. You wrote, after I said leapfrog model, you wrote, I don't see it.
That's because someone responded to you and I was responding to that someone.
Oh, it's not with respect to the leapfrog model. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I don't, see, the context is lost there for that comment.
Exactly. So
The
that's why you have
leapfrog
to have
model
the
was-
specific time tag to the second to really understand what the context was.
Yeah, and that was only a few. See, when Josh says, he was using what I called leapfrog model with jobs and all, and I just gave it a name.
Mm-hmm.
That you sell your current product to somebody else, start a new product, which then outdoes the one that you just sold,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the leapfrog model. That's all I meant by that. But that, I guess, that wasn't.
So I'm going to take a few screenshots because I'm not going to assume that I can keep this interaction with the AI companion.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put this in Messenger. And where is Messenger here?
Yeah, the lack of context in the chat is an issue. You do have to go back and correlate it to the timestamps of the video.
Okay, so I just pasted some of that based on the meeting transcript. Participants, rank each participant. Okay, so print screen again. I'll put this in again. Okay, do you see those in the Messenger?
I'm gonna go back to Messenger. Barn. Yeah, I see. Let me just scroll up. Okay. 1, 2, looks like 3 image pastes.
Yep.
Yep. And then I can, if I click on them and make them full screen, I can just, if I get in really close, I can read them.
You can click on them and expand.
Well, that's what I did.
Images.
I click on them to make them, yeah, and then I can, yeah, the font's large enough that I can read.
Mm-hmm.
So get out of the. What you want to get out of these is a folk theorem that holds water.
It'll happen. Don't worry.
Well, the thing is, I'm 78, and I don't know how much longer I'll have cognitive faculties that can stay plugged in and processing.
Oh, we still have to keep those mental grooves working and create new grooves.
I'll tell you, just to give you an example, I was at a friend's house for Dungeons and Dragons last night. So I opened the refrigerator to get a soda. And I scan the soda and I see where there's Coke, and I reach in and I grab the bottle of Coke, the can of Coke. And when I'm halfway through drinking it, I realize it's Canada Dry. I looked for what I wanted. I reached for what I wanted, and evidently I picked something other than the one that I thought I was looking at. And I've done that. I have that kind of thing. Well, so Friday.
You're talking about senior moments, right, Barry?
For example, one of the people who came with an item to be fixed at the fix-it shop said, "Do you guys do house calls?" Because they had a glitch in their washing machine. And I said, "Well, the fix-it shop people don't do house calls, but I will do a house call just on my own dime, not part of fix it." So I go to their house yesterday, and we need to take off the bottom of the washing machine panel, the kick panel, to get into the undersides of it to see if we could find a disconnected wire. And we had the error message, and the error message mapped into a particular cable that would correspond to the error message. So the first thing is I can't get the kick panel off because the damn bolts are on too tight. So the husband goes and gets a socket wrench, ratchet, and gets the bottom off. So then I get my light, I look in there, and I can see where the blue wire is, but I can't get the cover off it. I said, "Can you get the cover off this?" So then he goes in there and tries to get the cover off where the blue wire goes. And he goes, "Hang on a second, there's a dangling wire over there on the other." And he pulls it off, and sure enough, there's a wire that's not connected to anything. And I see where it belongs, and we between the two of us, he does all the work, all the actual manual work. He does everything, and all I'm there is sort of guiding the process and failing to do the steps because I can't. And his vision is better than mine. He sees the dangling wire, which I didn't see. He reconnect, and then I predict that's going to fix the problem. He says, I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I have the evidence. And then they had to run the machine through, I think, 20 minutes of the cycle to prove that it got through the place where it failed before. But it was interesting. He literally did all the work. All I did was alleviate his trepidation and fear of not knowing what he's doing, and alleviate. He says the reason I didn't do this is I'm too lazy. I said I alleviated your fear and I alleviated your laziness. You actually ended up doing all the work. And at the end,
that's a dangerous simplification of it, right? Because the difference is, had you not been there, would the problem have been solved?
No, because the wife.
Therefore, it was the combination of you that created that outcome.
Right. And when I predicted that it was going to work, I predicted it based on my understanding of electrical circuits. All three of them, the husband and the wife and me, all have degrees in electrical engineering. We're all electrical engineers. And when he said, I don't see why, it was a ground wire that, by the way, was disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I don't see why that ground wire over on the motor would cause a communication error on the controller. And I said, Kirchhoff's current
noise, right?
No, Kirchhoff's current law. The ground wire was the return path for the signal, which doesn't seem why wouldn't the return path be the same cable? But it turned out that the ground wire was the return path for the signal. And I said, that's Kirchhoff's current law. You can't send a signal in if you can't get the electrons back out the other end. And the wife said, Kirchhoff's law. Did we ever study Kirchhoff's law?
That's the most fundamental thing in electricity and magnetism.
They couldn't remember having heard of it.
Oh, come on.
Now, here's the thing. I said, by the way, what's your nationality? Turns out they were from Israel. Now, they'd been here since 1987. So I could barely tell that they didn't grow up in America. And I didn't know they were Jewish because I didn't know their surname. But it turned out they were from Israel, and I didn't ask them. It might have gone to the Technion. Who the hell knows? But they had studied electrical engineering, and for whatever reason, Kirchhoff's law by that name.
Yeah, it could have been a different name, right?
But what I also said, if you can't have electrons coming into a node.
Yeah, the gazindas and the gazaudas, they have to.
I said, because Coulomb's law will say, get out of here. The room's full. There's no more room for any more electrons. Coulomb says, get the hell out of here. And Kirchhoff's law says, well, here's the exit. You got to have an indoor and an outdoor. And I explained Kirchhoff's law, and just like I did just now. And it seemed like they didn't register. 3 electrical engineers.
That's not right.
And the reason I went yesterday is because
I'm not a double E, and I remember Kirchhoff's law.
Well, it's quite possible that in Israel they either called it something else.
That's what I mean. But the principle should have still been
right.
Recognizable.
Exactly. But I didn't dwell on it. I mean, we could have said, well, what did you learn that's equivalent? But when I explained it, it didn't seem to register as, oh yeah, now I know what you're talking about. But anyhow, the point is that 3 people, the wife, the husband, and me, collectively solved the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we got it to work. And any one of us, by myself, I couldn't have done it because I couldn't get the damn bolts off to get the kick panel off. They were on so damn tight.
Mm-hmm.
And also my vision isn't good enough. I might not have spotted the dangling wire over on the other side of the motor system. That was the ground return. And he spotted it. And then when I pulled the clips off, and then he reconnected the clips and put them all back. So I was sort of thinking it through ahead of him, but he was spotting the stuff. He was seeing the things that I wasn't seeing. And together we got it all together. But and that was an interesting instance of collaboration.
Yep.
Any one of us 3 by ourselves, or any 2 of us by ourselves, probably would not have fixed it. And then they said, what do we owe you? And I said, well, I don't actually do this for money. I said, but if you want to make a donation to the community center in lieu. So they wrote me a check for $50 to give to the community center.
Nice.
Saving a washing machine, which if we hadn't fixed it for zero cost, they either would have had to throw it away or call in a repairman who would have charged $500.
Or found the free one on Facebook Marketplace.
And by the way, it was one of those stackable ones with the washer on the bottom, the dryer on top. So I said, we better be able to find it underneath, because if I have to get into the upper one behind, we got to take the upper one off.
Yep,
I said,
yep.
you're going to need a muscleman to take the dryer off the top of the washer to pull it out to get to the back panel. I said, if it's not the bottom connector, we're in trouble. We lucked out.
Okay.
Anyhow, it's a story.
Well, I look forward to tomorrow, Barry.
Yep, same time, same bat channel.
Okay.
All righty. Thanks.
Mañana.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Adios.